All right. What is going on YouTube? We're back for another video. I got a highly requested video to do like a Q&A video, and people have been swiping up and asking me a lot of questions recently on my Instagram, and so I was like, hey, like let's just throw a Q&A together. You guys wanted it, so we're gonna do one today. I basically just loaded up a bunch of questions that I got from like the last couple of Q&As that I've built up on my Instagram to answer all you guys' questions, as well as some DMs that have been asked as well. And we'll just kind of cover that. Just to kind of give you guys a brief update of where we are in prep. We are currently just under 6 weeks out. So a lot of different changes that are happening this week. A lot of new just fat burners added. A lot of new other steroids and other research chemicals added as well. And it's getting real, guys. Like we're starting to really dig down and get that extra last bit of fat off, so that way we can kind of coast in the show and come on obviously with the victory on top, walk on stage and get that overall. But with that being said, I'm gonna kind of start answering some of these questions. So to kind of start off, JCar08 asks, curious about how to get a bigger and longer pump. So when it comes to pumps in the gym, there's so many different areas that we can kind of tackle this from. And I think I kind of know, and I've talked to you before, off camera, separately on a DM, before, and you're someone who is getting into like the bodybuilding scene, and you're kind of newer to it, so you're going to be able to gain a lot of benefit from utilizing some of the techniques I'm gonna bring up here in just a second, rather than just like trying to maximize every single pathway possible. There's a lot you can do. What I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, essentially, and that comes down to like the big ones. Like water intake is huge, right? If you aren't mastering your water intake, if you don't have enough carbs in your system before a workout, or you're having low carbs, typically pumps aren't going to be great. And beyond that level, right? Like making sure that sleep is good, making sure that you have a good sodium amount, right? I always salt them out, and I told my guys this, salt your meals. I typically do like 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt with every one of my meals. Sometimes I'll do an extra 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt in my intra-workout shake that I make. And that's a great way to get more of that sodium, to draw more water into the muscle. Creatine helps with better pumps. There's a lot of pump products that you can get on the market. Citrulline is a great one. You can get like a powder, or it's in most pre-workouts as well. And don't be taking a bunch of caffeine. That's another one. Again, small one. Like it's a small one, but if you're taking over 200 milligrams, I believe it's known after that 200 milligram of like above that threshold to start to vasoconstrict and limit the amount of blood flow in your veins, basically being able to go throughout your veins while you're working out. So those are some low-hanging fruits. Kind of the next tier would be like, hey, utilizing something like a more nuanced pre-workout option, like that's like something like tadalafil, tadalafil. And that's honestly what I've been using recently, because with me, I have carbs that are lower in my plan right now, and so I want to be able to still feel the muscle and get good pumps on these training days, because performance matters, and being able to connect to the muscle matters even more. And so I've been using just 10 milligrams of tadalafil about 30 minutes to an hour before I work out. That's typically a good time to kind of take it to give you the good effects of that. So those are some low-hanging fruit. Obviously, like some of the bigger ones, taking enhancements. There's so many different routes you can go in the enhanced route that are going to improve pumps, but those are going to be the main contributors that I just mentioned right there when it comes to getting better pumps in the gym. And as far as water intake goes, just kind of going back to that, circling back, having a goal of getting like a certain amount of water intake before you go to the gym. So whether you're going to the gym after 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals, like I have a minimum for myself of getting 60 to 80 ounces of water, right? You shouldn't really be going to the gym before that. If you're going without having any water, like, or 20 ounces or less, like that's not going to be enough to get you a good pump in the gym. So, I definitely recommend that. But yeah, awesome profits. And this kind of goes, back with the other question, the importance of carb timing. Sorry, I think I butchered your name, bro. Awesome Pro Lifts. The importance of carb timing. So when it comes to carbs, first off, what are we talking about? Timing as far as for a show, timing as far as for I'm assuming here you're asking about workouts. So typically the biggest meals that I program in for my guys, and myself, and what I recommend in general is like having the peri-workout nutrition window, so your pre-workout, your intra-workout, and your post-workout being the highest carb meals in the day. So, actually if we're talking about meals, it's really 2 meals, your pre-workout and post-workout meal. Those meals should have a significantly higher amount of carbs in those meals compared to your other meals in the day. If I were to give a kind of a quick estimate of how many carbs I'm taking for those 2 meals, I'm probably taking between 40 and 60% of my carbs for that day, structuring that in those 2 meals. And honestly, in the 3, I guess you could consider intra-workout like a shake. And you're sipping on carbs while you train. That's going to help give you better performance in the gym. And so what these carbs are helping you do, again, better pumps, like I mentioned before, but again, they're going to drive more nutrients into the muscle and allow you to get better, just better performance in the gym, which is therefore going to allow you to progress over time, getting a better stimulus, and that's going to have a better effect on the growth stimulus that's needed to grow to act upon hypertrophy. And on top of that, you're going to get the recovery benefits of the post-workout meal to refill the glycogen stores and shuttle a lot more of that glycogen into the muscle post-workout after you've depleted yourself of some glycogen. So that's kind of where I time my carbohydrates as far as training in the peri-workout nutrition window. I don't love adding a bunch of carbs at night. That's not always my favorite option. It's something I do it for some guys, depending on when they work out and things like that. But if you're going to be working out in the beginning of the day, typically I'm going to have most of your workout, your carbs in your peri-workout nutrition. So your intra and post-workout, pre, intra, and post-workout meals. And then towards the end of the day, we're going to start tapering the carbs a little bit. And that's going to help with insulin sensitivity, as well as making sure we're not over shuttling the carbs into, things like a fat cell instead. So, because insulin's a storage hormone. And so obviously we only have so much glycogen that we can help hold into our muscles. And beyond that point, the extra carbs get stored as fat. So, that's typically kind of how I program it. You're going to be a lot more sensitive to storing carbs as fat later in the day because you're not going to be as active typically. So, and there's obviously a big caveat there. So if you're training at night, obviously you want to have carbs post workout at night. You don't want to just skip the carbs because you want to be able to refill those glycogen storages. But I think that gives a good basis of understanding carb timing. So I'm going to move on to the next question. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this. Hepnathan. Okay. So I've tried to pronounce it, man. Have you tried injectable pre-workout? So the closest thing, I haven't actually tried an injectable amino blend from those research chemical places or peptide companies. I've thought I thought it'd be kind of cool someday to try it. I just haven't had the time, and I haven't really had the interest thus far. I guess one thing you could consider, if you want to consider injectable IGF-1 LR3 as an injectable pre-workout. I did take that my first cycle for about 4 to 6 weeks on, I believe it was my push days and then my pull days as well. So I was trying to bring up, and mainly and then my push days, it would be in my triceps, so I could bring up my triceps more. And then I would inject straight into the lat, bilaterally. So not just one lat, but each side. Same with tricep, each side. And I noticed a little bit of a difference. Like I noticed better pumps, longer lasting pumps for sure. But I would say like after using it, like it pretty much after I kind of stopped using it, the fullness kind of went away. So in my opinion, it wasn't really, for the money, it wasn't really worth it. You'd probably be better off just using like something like growth hormone and do it like a long-term, do it more of like a long-term thing. And so that's my take, I guess, as far as IGF goes. Right now, I am taking Tren. And I guess if you want to consider like Tren as like a injectable pre-workout, just because it's, Tren acetate is the one I'm taking, the ester that I'm taking, and it's a lot quicker of an ester than like something that would be like from a testosterone or a primobolan. So it's going to, have that quick peak serum, into your bloodstream. So some guys I've heard of taking it like, close around to that pre-workout window. I don't really think it really matters too much about taking it like too close to the pre-workout, because you want to give it some time to kind of saturate and get within your body. So I would say anywhere between 2 to 3-ish hours beforehand is a good kind of, I guess, what I've noticed, because I've been working out recently after 2 meals, and I'll usually pin my Tren between 8:30 and 9 a.m. So that's about 2 hours, 3 hours before the gym. So I guess you could consider that a pre-workout. I've definitely noticed the strength improvements from it just in prep, just being able to maintain the numbers. But yeah, I guess as far as other injectable pre-workouts, like the specific amino blends, I haven't tried those. So maybe we'll try them in the off season. But yeah, as far as injectable pre-workout, yeah, I haven't tried that yet. So with that being said, I'm going to go into some other questions here. Let's see here. All right. Flow_master_136 asks, what was your biggest setback and how did you overcome it? I'm assuming you're talking about prep. And we could get into like just in general too, but for prep, I think the overall biggest setback was, I guess so far, I've had a pretty smooth prep if I'm being honest. But I guess like a setback, maybe you can consider, the first, I would say month, of moving to this apartment. Like I definitely was challenged. I had a lot more small challenges. Like I didn't have a car for a month. That worked because I had a battery issue, and I was a battery issue, and then on top of it, I didn't have a car for the first month because it was in the shop. So it was like one problem, one car problem after another, and that was kind of a setback, but it wasn't like a major one. It was just when it came to overcoming it, it just like I made it work, right? Like I have a roommate, Tristan, who's my training partner, so we just took his car. And it made us get better at, scheduling our sessions together and being more like on time and like in a routine, just off the get go. And it kind of set up the prep in a way that I was able to just really kind of focus and dial things in as far as a routine standpoint, because I had that challenge, at the beginning of prep. I guess, a major setback in life, maybe. I could say maybe like the last couple of years. One thing I kind of, had when I first got into this bodybuilding journey is I had, when I first started with a coach, and this is a good kind of, I'll try to sum this up as best as possible with leaving as much detail that's important as far as it goes. But when I first started my coach, when I was 18 years old, I was still in high school, and I didn't have a job at the time. I was just kind of getting good grades because my parents were nice enough to, hey, as long as I got good grades, they would help with the coach for the first couple months until I got a job. So I did that, and we made some good progress. And this is the same coach I have now. He's great. His name is Nick Justice. If you guys haven't heard of him, go hit him up. He's a dope coach. But yeah, I mean, as far as the first couple months, we made some progress. We got blood work. We got blood work. Drawn about four. Let's see. No, it was like 8 to 12 weeks in, somewhere in there. So like 2 or 3 months in, and we noticed like just some things were off, and my testosterone was at like 184. Being 18 years old, it was just crashed in the gutter. And I remember that was kind of a setback, in that sense. And it was just, that led to a whole cascade of events of like trying to figure out what was the main issue, and, having to go back and forth with doctors, not believing the fact that I had, blood work done, and thinking that I was just trying to hop on steroids at, 18, faking my blood work and things like that. It was a whole cascade of things, just like the medical system, just trying to go through the regular medical system. It's just not the most ideal way to go about things. And so I had to go to a TRT clinic who we just worked together at trying to bring up my natural testosterone through a gut protocol, actually. And I would say like the testosterone part came up a little bit. I was able to bring up to like 300-400, but it was still just kind of in the gutter. What I noticed the biggest difference though was just improvements in my other markers in my blood work, and my gut was just fixed. Like I had like some previous gut issues, but everything was fixed. And so I was in a perfect spot because of that gut protocol to set myself up for TRT and to grow so much. I put on 40 pounds starting my first cycle. And I was still I basically went from like 190 with abs to like 235 with abs still. So it was a big jump, but the biggest struggle and step back was that basically 6 to 7 month period of gut protocol where I wasn't able to really train. I've had to take it down to 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week at 60% intensity, which if you know the way I train, I love to just train hard. And to be able to have that news come to me, for 6 to 7 months, it just wasn't a fun feeling. And so I had to take a lot of time to focus on other things in my life. And it really helped me appreciate, just the other things in my life and realize that I'm not just a bodybuilder. Like if bodybuilding was to be taken away from me tomorrow, I have other things that I would be able to go do. And so it was a really good, I would say, I guess, crucial point in my bodybuilding career thus far, allowing me to, shape up and mature a lot. I just learned so much about myself and who I wanted to become as not just a bodybuilder, like I said, but as a person. So in those 6 months, I learned a lot of good, valuable lessons. But getting to the next question, guys. Joey the Jetpack, one of my athletes actually, have there been talks about using harsher things right before stepping on stage? And I assume by harsher things, you're talking about compounds. So yeah, I mean, I have some interesting things I got the other day from my coach. I'm not gonna really go crazy into depth, but we'll just say we got some different oral compounds that we have potential to use. Not saying it's gonna happen. That's why I don't really want to go into the details of what they are. But yeah, I mean, as far as using some harsher things, that's something hey, if that's needed, and that is what is going to make us look the best on stage, and it's used for an acute reason, or an acute period where it's not hey, we're using this for month to month on month before the show, then yeah, I'm down with doing that because obviously at the end of the day, I'm willing to push it, push it. There's risk in bodybuilding, but there's also, there's a difference between, taking risks and being retarded. So, and that's the difference here is we're not just taking a bunch of blind risks. We're taking calculated risks, looking at my physique analysis, taking analysis of it. Hey, does it actually need this compound, right? Because the reality is thus far, for basically the first 15 weeks of the cycle, for the first 8 to 10 weeks of the cycle, in this prep, I really haven't had to use a lot of compounds. We basically just used Test and Primo. And then we implemented a little bit of Tren, from week 8 And then now being week 6, we upped the trend from 70 megs to 140. And so it's definitely, it's definitely kind of getting up there as far as, probably the most amount of gear I've run so far, but not like by a huge jump. It's not like I doubled what I've taken milligram for milligram, from past cycles, right? So I hope that gives kind of a good, I guess, idea. Like I said before, we are running more fat burners. I just introduced Clen and Yohimbe, injectable Clen and Yohimbe in the mornings before fasted cardio. Not every single day, but before the days I do fasted cardio. So 5 days a week, not on rest days. And then we incorporated some T3 and T4 for just basic like lower dose like thyroid management, so that way we're not digging ourselves a hole in prep where when it comes to post show, now we have to rebound the whole thyroid and try to get back up again. We want to be able to basically go back into a rebound effect where we don't have to worry about trying to get hormones up that have been shuttled down, like the metabolism, through just dieting lower and lower calories. So we're incorporating those things now, so that way we don't have to like push calories to a dangerous point or like a really, really low point, much further than they are right now. So, but yeah, as far as like harsher things, like I said, it's something I'm willing to do to take a risk for an acute period of time, but it's not going to be something where I'm taking a crazy amount of like doubling the doses of everything and doing it for just because, right? Like it would be for a short amount of time, and also taking action as well, like with supplements and health supplements as well. Like that's one thing I pay a lot of attention to. As far as like my prep, my preps go is like, as far as this prep has gone, has been like being, and not even just prep, but like in the off season too. Like health supplements are the most, I would say, under like purchased supplements out there, and they're not talked about enough. People always are talking about the pre-workouts and all the other performance supplements, but the health supplements are what actually are going to allow you to perform better at the end of the day, because a healthy body is a responsive body. And so I don't want to just because I'm in prep, hey, it's okay if my blood markers get really skewed up because I can fix it in a health phase. It's like, no, I want to be healthy as much as possible in the prep, so that way going to the next phase, I don't have to spend the whole entire phase fixing my health. I want to be able to keep my health as consistent as possible, so that way when I'm getting out of this prep, it's like a very smooth transition. But also over time, when you're doing that and staying healthier on cycle, you're going to be able to have more cycles in you. You're going to be able to push more over longer periods of time, and therefore get further as a bodybuilder, and be able to make more progress, all while not taking crazy risks and taking crazy months of years off your life from all the compounds abuse. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is being able to stay up on the health supplements. Some of the ones I've been taking right now, obviously the anti-inflammatory, ones like the being able to get enough fish oil, omega-3s, so DHA, EPA. I try to get between 2 to 4-ish grams, like honestly 3 to 4 grams. So I just take 2 like high dose EPA, DHA fish oil supplements in the morning, or pills in the morning, and then the same thing at night. So like I said, it adds up to 3 or 4 grams of omegas at the end of the day. So that's one of them. You can get that. The brand I use is Nordic Naturals. One of the best brands out there as far as omegas go. And then I use curcumin as a anti-inflammatory, helps with pain, and actually like helps with DONS. So like when you're sore post-workout, like I've actually noticed, I had a noticeable difference, taking an adequate dose of curcumin every single day versus not, in training, and noticing like the soreness post, day or two after. So I definitely recover better using curcumin. Obviously, other immune and just like what's the word? Anti-inflammatory ones like The precursor to glutathione is NAC. So I take a higher dose of NAC every single day. I'm trying to remember all the other supplements. There's so many I take. Citrus bergamot with lipids. Obviously, running orals can definitely skew your lipids a little bit. And so being able to take something like citrus bergamot, omegas are going to help with that too. But yeah, there's just so many and I can leave. I honestly, I was going to say I put together an Amazon list as far as just like supplements and just bodybuilder things, and I'm gonna keep putting the list together. But I'm gonna actually attach this list, shopping list on Amazon below, so that way you guys can kind of have some free game as far as what to get as far as supplements goes. Especially if you're enhanced or you're getting into bodybuilding in general, it has just all the things on there as far as enhanced bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, and just things to get. So I'll leave that in the link in the description. But yeah, next question, also by Joey, my client. Biggest struggle so far, we kind of already covered that. Blake Goyette, this will be the last question I'll do today. So what are your opinions on GLP-1s? So with all these GLP agonist, drugs coming out the last couple of years, I've kind of had changed opinions. I've never taken them personally. I haven't taken semaglutide, retatrutide, tirzepatide, any of those. And for good reason. I don't want to jump into something that is kind of brand new and hasn't been enough research behind it. Obviously, we have a lot of anecdotal, research behind it now, with people trying it. And still, I guess my opinion has kind of formed to I think there's only very few people as bodybuilders that would actually benefit from them, and in only certain instances. So, something like Retta, for example, is going to be the best one I would say for bodybuilders, because it has the fat loss effects, as well as the hunger signaling, as well as the improvements on lipids and other health markers in your blood work. And so I would say potentially post-show, you could utilize something like a GLP-3, essentially what it would be called, or retatrutide. But in general, I just don't, I think it's unnecessary for most people. I think that even in prep, people talk about using it. Even though food right now for me is at 2,200 calories, I don't notice the crazy food, cravings, and maybe that's just me. But I haven't really feel like I've needed to, use something to further blunt, I guess, food cravings, because I just haven't had the issue with it, or even just hunger in general. I really haven't experienced that. It's more been I guess the tired, being kind of more achy and tired from low food rather than the actual hunger itself. So I personally haven't had to use it. I know people that do use it in prep, generally a good rule of thumb, taking it out 4 weeks before a show, because that's typically how long it takes to clear the system fully. And when you're carbing up, you don't want to have, and this is the other thing that I don't love about GLPs, is that they slow the gastric empty and they slow your digestion down. So it's if you're trying to carb up for a show and you have to do a lot of carbs and a lot of food, the peak week, or the weeks leading up to the show, and you have retatrutide in, or a GLP agonist in, that's going to cause a lot of digestive issues on top of hey, if you're already taking oral steroids, that's going to further make that harder. And now you're going to have distended waist on stage, or just problems absorbing the food and actually being able to get a full look. So, that poses issues within itself. And then again, off season, guys that use any GLP in the off season, unless it's maybe a cutting phase, again, I just think it's stupid, because you're trying to push food and you're essentially trying to limit yourself for insulin sensitivity benefits. But it's we have so many really great, useful peptides and tools out there already. You want to improve insulin sensitivity, start with the basics. Start going on walks after your meals. Start getting more steps in, start doing fasted cardio or cardio in general. Don't, again, kind of going back to what I said before about carbs, don't program out a bunch of carbs, before you go to sleep. And being able to plan more, more carbs around training. doing things like that, that's going to better help your insulin sensitivity. And then again, like you can use other tools like, over-the-counter supplements like berberine. You can use things like metformin. If you need be and you're using GH, and you feel the need because your fasted insulin, your fasted glucose levels are always high, you can use something like, you can just use insulin itself. Like that's going to in itself, in the right dosing, I'm not going to prescribe protocols on here. I'm not going to talk about protocols, but in the right dosing, if you know how to use insulin, that's a great way to improve insulin sensitivity because you're taking stress off the pancreas from having to produce the insulin. So again, do I think that GLPs are needed? No. Do they think they're a potential tool that you could utilize that could potentially help, like post-show when you have all these cravings? Potentially. But again, it kind of depends person to person. I think I might consider playing around with it, but I think more so than ever, like I want to just really focus on gut health and fixing my health first after the show than trying to artificially fix it and limit my cravings. Like I'm going to get my cravings out when I need to. And I don't want to have slow digestion because of that. So, I don't know. We'll see if I play around with it. I think there's a lot of other great peptides I'd rather utilize, in the off season than like something like retatrutide or any of these GLPs. So that's my take on it. Like I said, until I probably take it myself, I won't have any further updated opinions on that. I've had clients take it in the past, and again, I'm not the hugest fan, unless it's really, I would say it's very situational dependent, like kind of talking about before. So, with that being said, I'm going to end the video here, guys. Appreciate you guys for watching. I don't know how long has this video gotten. It's 31 minutes. Hey, that's a good video. Like I said, I will maybe continue to do these. If you guys enjoyed this video, again, drop a like. Drop a comment. Hey, what do you want to talk about next time? Do you have questions about, what you want to understand about next time? I really want to start to cultivate an environment here on YouTube where I'm just starting to educate you guys as best as possible. I want to just, take this knowledge I've been learning on this prep, but also my journey in general with coaching all my athletes, being a younger bodybuilding coach, and bodybuilder myself. I want to spread that knowledge and help people in the same position that I used to be in. And so, with that being said, guys, leave some questions in the comments for the next video. Let me know, do you guys want to see more videos and Q&A styles, like in videos like this? Do you want more training videos? Like, let me know in the comments, and we will make it happen, guys. So, with that being said, keep crushing it. Keep lifting like, keep lifting like animals, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.